N'Keal Harry was an absolute steal at 32. What are you guys talking about? Forget Tom Brady's passing numbers. He's the GOAT because he was the best punter in the NFL. I take Johnny Hekker over Patrick Mahomes to be my quarterback any day.
Welcome to the No Punt Intended Sportscast with your host, Parody07.
Welcome back to the No Punt Intended Sportscast. I'm your host, Guy, and I'm here with, as always, the DAWGS. You know, I've never actually asked you guys if you think the DAWGS thing is good. I mean, we've run with it for now. This will be our 27th episode, so I hope you guys like it. If you don't, I'm sorry.
If it's for me. So.
Okay. Well, like, it just occurred to me that we've never talked about it off or on air, so that's where we're sitting with that. But we've got an interesting one for you people. Usually this is the point where I go on a little spiel on what's been going on in the NFL, and then we talk about our respective teams. We're not doing that today. I'm going to go on a little spiel because, you know, that's what the host does. But after that, we're going to do some predictions. That's right, an entire show dedicated to predictions. And why aren't we doing like a how do I put it? Like a review yet? Well, some of our seasons aren't done yet. Quite frankly,
Yeah.
We've got Hound with the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs. I mean, to nobody's surprise, maybe a little bit surprised as to what seed they are, considering they're the third seed. But
It's only a number. Seed's only a number.
well, the seed's only a number unless you're the first seed. Then it's an automatic bye. But we'll leave that alone for now. The fact of the matter is we have some predicting to do. We've got 6 games this weekend, and then we'll have 4 games the next weekend, and then 2 the weekend after that. We're going to predict all the way up to each, not divisions, but conferences championship. So all the way through the divisional round, wild card, divisional, then the conference, and we'll stop there. We'll do an exclusive Super Bowl show when the time comes. And we've also already predicted potential Super Bowl matchups, even though only one of ours, once again, Hound, is actually possible for 2024 at this point. So we'll talk about some of our predictions at a later time. But for now, let's go through some of these games and we'll work through it. We're gonna go start with LB, and we'll start with LB's AFC predictions. I'm sure you're just grateful that you don't have to worry about whether or not Bryce Young is going to survive the next game, because the next game is not till next September. So I'm sure you're grateful for that, and at the very least, you will have new management in town as far as the head coaching and offensive coordinator goes. I don't know how much difference it will make, but here's hoping for you. But if you have any thoughts on that real quick, feel free to introduce yourself with that. And then otherwise, I'm curious, starting with the first game up the top here. I'm streaming it to you guys, so you should be able to see it. Starting with the Steelers Bills game and then working your way down.
Yeah, so after a very long, excruciatingly painful, embarrassing, hopeless, fill in the blank with the adjective that is a negative connotation attached to it season, the Panthers finally fired that bum, Scott Fitterer. Unfortunately, the damage has already been done. He's traded away our entire future for Bryce Young, so I really hope that pick pans out. However, that's neither here nor there. We're into the offseason. I no longer have to suffer through Sundays watching the Panthers get stomped. Playoff football, fellas. It's already here. It's hard to believe that we are going into wild card weekend. With the first game, the Steelers at the Bills. I have the Bills winning 24-20. The Dolphins Chiefs. I have the Dolphins winning 26-23. And then lastly, the Browns versus the Texans. I have the Browns winning 28-24.
Okay. So just give us a few thoughts on why you have those particular games going that way. My understanding is that would be a road win for the Dolphins. And that's 2 road wins, actually, if I'm not mistaken. The Browns will have to play in Texans territory down in Houston. So give me a few thoughts to each game and why you picked the ones that you picked.
Yeah, so firstly, the Bills, they're hot right now. They've won multiple games in a row to make the playoffs, finishing the season strong out with a win over the Dolphins, 21-14. Even though it was an ugly win, it was a win nonetheless. Had a playoff feel, type of that game, certainly with playoff implications on it. And it's at home in Buffalo. Pittsburgh's offense struggled all year round. I just think the Bills are the hotter team right now. They've got better offensive production. I think they pull out the win there. The Dolphins playing the Chiefs. I'm just not sold on either team, to be honest. Now, with the most recent developments of the injuries to the Dolphins squad, however, I do think they've had a really good season. And Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Tua, their running back duo with A-Chain and Mostert, I think is going to be too much for the Chiefs to handle, even though it's supposed to be super cold. So again, that might come back to bite me. The Dolphins, it's kind of iffy if they can play in the cold weather. So we'll see. But again, I think Mike McDaniel's going to have the team ready to go, especially after that disappointing loss to the Bills. And then lastly, the Browns-Texans game. I just like Joe Flacco. He's playing elite football. That whole team's a wagon. There's, in my opinion, no real weakness on that team, at least from, a glance. I'm sure you could find holes in it, just like every team. But I like Flacco's experience. I like the way the team's playing right now. And I think even though it's a home game for rookie C.J. Stroud, that the Browns defense is going to be too much for that Texans offense. And I think Flacco makes fewer, if any, mistakes than the Texans offense. And I think he gets it done for the Browns.
I think Joe Flacco is actually a very elite quarterback.
Heck yeah. So you've got the old man beating the most likely person to be rookie of the year. That is, you're taking the experience over the youth. I appreciate that. But that leaves you with some interesting matchups here in the divisional round. You got the Dolphins playing the Ravens yet again. And by the way, if this would be, I'm not saying you're picking the Dolphins. If the Dolphins happen to win that game, they would have beaten the 2 of the teams that handed them L's this year, and the Ravens, especially very recently. So that would be quite the turnaround for the Dolphins. But we got Dolphins-Ravens, and that would be played in Baltimore, and then in Buffalo would be Joe Flacco versus young gun Josh Allen. Who do you got winning those games, my friend?
Yeah, give me the Ravens at home with probably all likelihood the MVP, Lamar Jackson. That team is loaded. They're playing really good football. I'll be interested to see how they come out after the bye, after playing consistently good football for the last however many weeks. Sometimes you can kind of be hurt by a bye week because you kind of get out of rhythm, although it will be good to get rest and, watch guys play. You just never know how that might affect them. But I'm not too concerned about the Ravens, especially at home. Lamar Jackson's MVP, I think, for this year. So give me the Ravens. This next game is an interesting one. I think the Browns are going to get hot or stay hot, and I think they're going to get it done. I just don't know why. It feels kind of like a team of destiny. Joe Flacco and the boys rallying around the old man. Again, the defense is really good. It's hard to bet against Myles Garrett. And again, I think watching Josh Allen play this year, he can throw for 400 yards or he can throw for 100 yards and 4 interceptions. It just really, in my opinion, all depends on who takes care of the ball more. I think the Browns offense is kind of tailored more to protecting the rock. At least that's the way Joe Flacco seems to play. Josh Allen's more of a loose cannon at times, which obviously is you gotta live and die by it. But I'm going again with the Browns. I think they get it done.
Heck
But
yeah.
I think that will be the end of the road for them. I think the Ravens ultimately beat them in the conference championship game.
Wow. My thing that I like about the Browns against the Bills in that particular scenario is that the Browns have the dogs to be able to only rush 3 or 4 and get pressure on Josh Allen without having to blitz him and be able to play coverage behind it. So that's usually how you beat a team with an elite quarterback. That's how you beat Brady. That's how you beat Manning. That's how you beat all these teams. If you're just going to straight up play them, you needed to get pressure with your front 4 and then be able to cover on the backside. And the Browns are one of the few teams in the NFL that have the dogs in the backfield on the defensive side of the ball to do it. So I like this. I like this a lot. This is quite spicy. I love it. So a Cleveland-Baltimore conference championship, and you blessed us with a Ravens prediction for the Super Bowl as of this point. But we'll leave that alone for now because we'll do a Super Bowl prediction once we actually know who's playing. Hound, I'm just curious what teams you're going to pick the Kansas City Chiefs to play and then eventually beat, I'm sure. But I'll let you just have the floor on it as far as the AFC side of it goes. Let me hear your thoughts on these games and what you think will go down here.
Yeah, so for Pittsburgh versus the Bills, I think this would have been a really close game if the Steelers still had TJ Watt, but he's officially out for that game. So I think there's literally no shot for the Steelers. That's basically the Steelers' entire team. So I'm going with the Bills, 19-15. And I have a few things to talk about with this game. The main reason I think it's going this way is because I think TJ Watt is out. I would be tempted to pick the upset if he was still playing.
Right.
Because people talk about the Bills' 6-game win streak, which is good. But I wouldn't say that it's an impressive win streak per se. Winning a game is still winning a game. But one player has not looked very good in that win streak, and that's Josh Allen. During that 6-game win streak, Josh Allen only threw for over 240 yards once, and that was against the Dolphins. And he had a game where he threw for less than 100 yards. And in a way, you could say that this is impressive that the Bills are winning even when Josh Allen isn't playing well, because that's always been a factor with the Bills, is that they're too dependent on Josh Allen. So that is impressive. But I think the biggest flaw for the Bills is that they have a very high ceiling, but they're very inconsistent. So once you put them against a good defense, they can take some of the Bills' inconsistencies and use it against them. But in this game, I think the Bills win. Next, Dolphins versus Kansas City, my team. I'm going with Kansas City, obviously. I'm just going to say that right out of the gate.
Big surprise.
For a few reasons. Yeah, for a few reasons. Once, basically, Kansas City has had a bye week. We didn't play hardly any of our starters this last week, so that's good. Get all of our boys rested up. Miami is very injured right now. They have 10 players who either have not participated or are limited participants on their injury report. And they're important players too. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Mostert are all on either did not participate or limited participation this week. And we're expecting a 0-degree game in Kansas City. And if there's one thing we know about Miami is they don't really handle the cold very well. Our defense has been doing very well. We're second in points allowed in the entire league, only behind the Ravens. So I think that they'll slow down Miami like they did a few months ago. So my prediction for that score is 19-15 Kansas City over the Dolphins.
So you got two games that go 19-15?
19-15. Yes.
Wow.
Anyways, okay. Browns versus Texans. The Browns also have basically had a bye week because this last week didn't really matter for them. that Browns defense is great, and there's some Joe Flacco magic. But the Texans with CJ Stroud, they've done excellent this season. They've been doing very well. They're kind of a team that not a lot of people have talked about, especially after the halfway point, because when CJ Stroud got injured, people kind of forgot about the Texans. But they're a very solid team. But I still have to pick the Browns because that Browns defense scares me, and I think anyone. They've got some studs on that defense. So I'm going to pick the Browns over the Texans 19-15. So
this guy's trolling.
He said.
So, anyways, we got the divisional round.
Listen, if one of these games at any point is 19-15, he will have to win some sort of award. I will have to make up the award and then give it to him because that's wild to have not only to have a 19-15 playoff game, but for that to go that way for all 3 playoff games. Wow.
If this guy is right at 19-15 for every single game, you're 1000% a time traveler.
I won't let him predict.
Never know.
I will never let him predict against us. Like I won't make it a competition again. I will.
Like 19. They're all 19-15, but all the other teams won.
Like yeah, like it's the
no.
like one thing is off on each one. You know, it's like yeah, that's wild.
Okay,
but
so
interesting thing here, real quick, is that it seems like, based on the way both of your prediction goes, if the Ravens want to make it to the Super Bowl, they're going to have to beat their division rivals, Cleveland Browns, at some point. So that's an interesting thought, considering there's just the different style plays of those teams. But let's hear it. We've got these are both rematches. Obviously, the Ravens and Browns had to play twice this season. So what say you, Hound, to the divisional round?
Divisional round. So I think Ravens versus Browns is a very interesting matchup. And if I'm the Ravens, this is probably the team I do not want to play the most.
Facts.
To be totally honest. Not that I don't think the other teams could or couldn't beat the Ravens, but I think the Browns kind of scares you because division rivals always do. So Ravens, I think it was an interesting decision to basically have 2 weeks of bye, 2 bye weeks. So I think that was a very fascinating decision. We're going to see if that works out or if they're going to start off rusty. My prediction is they do start off rusty, but I think they figure it out by halftime. Like I could see this be a game like at halftime, it's like 12-10 the Browns, right? It's like, whoa, what's happening to the Ravens? It's Lamar Jackson. He's falling apart. But then I could see in the second half, like maybe the Browns kick a field goal and maybe the Ravens don't get into the end zone, but they kick like 3 more field goals,
So
win the game.
So, and they win the game, let me guess, 19-15?
19-15. So anyways, the next divisional round matchup is Kansas City versus the Bills. This was a heartbreak game last time because this was the offensive offsides game. That if that hadn't been called, we most likely would have won that game because that was a touchdown. And everyone, like the Bills, probably wouldn't be in the playoffs right now if we won that game. So, very fascinating matchup. We're going into Buffalo this time. So, very fun. I don't know. I'm biased in this game, obviously. I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan. I have trust in our defense. And I don't have a lot of trust with the Bills. A lot of people do. I don't. So I think with this game, I do have Kansas City beating the Bills. I'm going to just say this as a preface throughout the entire playoffs as people are watching games and like, oh, Kansas City, do you really think they're that good? I think the Kansas City Chiefs can beat any team and can lose to any of the teams. That's kind of my feeling with the Chiefs. I think they could beat every team. I think they could. But I think they could lose to every team. And I think almost all their games are probably going to be very close.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these are kind of coin flips, to be totally honest, when it comes to the Chiefs.
I agree.
So Just because when you have a good defense, you can usually stick in games, but then it just kind of comes down to who makes less mistakes, and we sometimes make mistakes. So, anyways, for that game, what would be a good score? I don't know.
19-15.
How about 15-19? Bills lose.
Okay, fair enough.
That. Okay, so
all right,
so the conference championship
we can leave.
game.
We can leave that.
We're
alone.
going to leave this one.
Yeah, we'll leave that alone for now.
Make it a mystery.
Yeah, we'll leave that
I like
alone.
it.
We'll talk about that when the time comes.
I will say this though. Everyone's been talking about the Super Bowl art, right?
Yeah.
What if that's actually talking about the AFC Conference Championship game? Okay. I'm just saying, red, purple. We'll see.
I will say that this matchup for the AFC Conference would be a hype matchup. KC Baltimore in Baltimore would be wild. I would really appreciate that. I agree with a lot of what you all said. As far as my prediction on this sort of stuff goes, I'll start very quickly with the Bills Steelers. I don't care if it's Small Hands Pickett, Mason Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, or Mitch. Is that his first name? Mitch.
Yeah, Mitch.
Just Mitch. Steelers, I don't care how much hype they are. I don't care how much Mike Tomlin scowls at his team. I don't see them winning this game. The Bills, I think, could have the worst game of their season and still win this game, especially with TJ Watt out. So I have the Bills winning that game. It may be close in the beginning, and I think the Bills will cruise for the most part. Maybe Josh Allen makes a few mistakes because that's what Josh Allen does, and that's a good defense. Otherwise, I don't know. They lost to the Patriots. They lost to the Cardinals. I have no reason to think that they won't lose to the Bills. So a significantly more talented team than if you put the Patriots and Cardinals together. So there's that. Dolphins, Kansas City is really tough for me. I have Kansas City winning this game.
Hey, there we go.
And the main reason I have Kansas City winning this game is the weather. I know Tua is Tua. I think the lack of arm talent was overhyped for him, underhyped, however you want to put it. You know, everybody clowned on him for having all this speed and then it not working out. I just think this Mike McDaniel, I think it's going to be one of those games where the Dolphins get up kind of early, maybe by like 10 or something like that, and then the Chiefs just kind of chip away, trading field goals for touchdowns, and then they win in the last 5 minutes of the game. And I think it'll come with playoff experience, Andy Reid drawing up a few plays to kind of have Miami on their heels. And like Hound said, this is not a fully weaponized Dolphins team. They are suffering on the injury front, unfortunately, and bad timing to them. Mike McDaniel will win Coach of the Year, though. So kudos to the Dolphins, but you're out early this year, and I'm not sorry. According to Donald Trump, Joe Flacco is elite.
I think Joe Flacco is actually a very elite quarterback.
So I would, it's hard to go against such valid analysis. However, this is where I'm going to differ from you guys. I think the young stud Texans rally behind a rejuvenated CJ Stroud and leave the old man to cry his tears away in his sacks of money that he wasn't supposed to win this year because he wasn't supposed to take a snap. Sorry, Joe. You may be back next season and maybe you win the Super Bowl next season as a 55-year-old man or however old you are. And you'll have to get through the Aaron Rodgers-led Jets at that point. But I'll tell you what, right now, CJ Stroud, Rookie of the Year, and trying his best, D'Amico Ryan, to steal Coach of the Year away from Mike McDaniel. But I've got the Texans pulling one out. If you want a score prediction, guess what? It's not going to be 19-15. I think it's actually going to be one of those 27-21 games.
All right.
Now for the divisionals, well, I'm going to actually start with the Kansas City Bills game because I'm just going to put it straight up. I think Kansas City at this point, with their defense and with the revenge on the line, I think it's going to be too much for Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen will have to be released a little at this point. I think the Bills will get down early. And I think the Bills will have to throw the ball a little bit more predictably. And Josh Allen is going to throw a few. And guess what? There will be batted balls aplenty in this game, I think.
Yeah.
So I have the Kansas City Chiefs winning this game. And guess what? I as much as I want CJ Stroud to win this game, I think I think this will be kind of like the Liberty Oregon game where Houston comes out, shocks everybody with an opening drive, and then that's it. And the Ravens will just steamroll from there. I think their defense is too good. Lamar Jackson's playing the best ball of his career with a new offensive coordinator. And my guy from Boston College, Zay Flowers, is going to have 2 tutties in that game.
Ooh.
And will play the Kansas City Chiefs in Baltimore for their final matchup before getting to the Super Bowl. And I didn't actually know what my conference championship would look like. I just took the games as they were, and that's where I ended up. So
Nice.
Ravens Chiefs is my prediction.
I was not expecting anyone to pick the Chiefs to go to the conference championship, if I'm going to be totally honest.
It's more, it's not a praise of the Chiefs, but an indictment on Josh Allen, just so you know.
To be fair, I kind of agree with how I did it too.
So it's not that I'm picking the Chiefs to win, I'm picking the Bills to lose. So
yeah,
that's more the thing here. And you know what? If I wasn't a New England fan, maybe the Dolphins would have ended up winning that game, but if you're going in left-handed and then you can't even move your left hand because it's frozen over, I have a hard time.
Yep.
The arm talent and the arm strength will make a difference in that game. I really do believe that. So, all right, with that, we got the AFC out of the way, and this short podcast is now going to be regular length. Wonderful. So glad we started earlier. So we're moving on to the NFC side, which, if I'm going to be honest, this is a rather intriguing set of teams to have on this side. So I'm really, this could go a whole bunch of different ways. So we'll start with LB on this one, and you're definitely gonna set the bar here because I'm not sure. I'm glad I'm going last. Let me tell you this, because I'm not sure about any of these games. So I guess starting with the Green Bay Cowboys game and working your way down here, who do you got winning this game this week?
Yeah, give me the Cowboys. I just don't think the Green Bay defense is going to be able to stop that Cowboy offense when it comes down to it. So Cowboys winning 30-24. I think Jordan Love's going to move the ball a little bit, but I think it's going to be a tale of the two defenses, and I give the edge to the Cowboys.
Heck yeah. All right, so now you got Rams, Lions. Who do you got there?
Yeah, give me the Lions, Motor City, Dan Campbell, the boys having their first home playoff game in 30 years. And let me tell you, I thought I had it rough as a Panthers fan. Man, at least in my life, I'm 26 years old. In my 26-year-old life, I've seen the Panthers play in 2 Super Bowls, so I consider that a blessing, even though it was Heartbreak City twice. I couldn't imagine being a Lions fan and not having a home playoff game. So my dark horse is the Lions. I would love to see them win it all. I'm really pulling for them. But give me the Lions, even though Matt Stafford's coming back to town. I just think this is a new team. It's a new brand of football. I think they're tough, just like their coach, and they're hungry. I think the fans is going to be on fire. So I have the Lions winning 31-27.
Ooh. Wow. And I totally forgot about that. storyline with Matt Stafford coming back to Motor City. That is,
Yep.
and
Well,
it's
yeah,
Jared
Stafford.
Goff, and it's
Yeah.
Goff playing
Yeah.
against his old former team.
The
Oh,
NFL
what a
scriptwriters
juicy-
do it again.
The juicy, this is definitely the juicy game. Oh my gosh! All right, Eagles Bucks. Do you dare?
Give me the Buccaneers, baby. I think the Eagles are dead in the water. I think they are the worst team in football right now.
Oh,
Hot take. I think they've been playing terrible.
Oh,
Give me Baker Mayfield and the boys handling business, representing the NFC South. Really happy for Baker Mayfield as a person and player individually. I think he really saved his career. I think he'll get another contract after this year, especially if he wins this week against the Eagles. I think it's a tough game. I think it's a defensive stronghold type of game. I think there's going to be some touchdowns scored, but not a blowout or not a high scoring game by any means. Give me the Bucks 23 over the Eagles with 20. 23-20. Give me the Bucks.
Wow. I love it. I love it. This would be so fascinating. And my disdain for the Eagles makes me happy, and my love for Baker Mayfield makes me happy for this. But does the Mayfield train stop in San Francisco, my friend?
It sure does. My boy McCaffrey and Brock Purdy and the fellas out west, they're gonna handle business. Give me the 49ers by a touchdown.
Wow. I love it. I love it. And then a rematch of one of the most interesting games of playoff games in my memory that did not involve New England. If you guys remember, this Dallas Cowboys versus Lions actually has some history in the playoffs here. There was a no call on a pass interference that changed the game, a consistent theme in many playoff games. But that one, especially considering the Lions hadn't been in the playoffs for a while, and I believe that was Matt Stafford and Calvin Johnson on that team. So, I mean, it was one of the what most Lions fans would call their heyday until they met Amon-Ra St. Brown. But LB, does Amon-Ra have enough juice in him to take on that Dallas Cowboy defense?
Oh, he sure does. And let me tell you what, fellas, I hope this is the case, that it's the Lions Cowboys, because this could be the game of the playoffs, just based on the backstory, the questionable calls, etc. The Lions, give me the Lions over the Cowboys in a revenge game, get into the NFC Championship, representing for all the depressed, down and out, haven't seen any good football in their entire life, Lions fans. I think they're going on a run, and I think they're going to punch their ticket to the NFC Championship game.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I didn't end up changing my picks over here, but just it's funny. If you get what you want and what you predicted from what I remembered, you would have a Ravens-Lions Super Bowl. That would be crazy. I would love that. I would love that. So thank you for those picks there, LB. All right, Hound.
Okay.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay.
How do the Lions get to the Super Bowl to play the Chiefs? Let's hear it.
Exactly right. So let's start with the Packers versus Cowboys. This is also an interesting game because you have Mike McCarthy playing against his former team. So that's also an interesting factor. So obviously Cowboys are the 2 seed. They've got home field advantage. Packers squeaked into the playoffs. So I have the Packers beating the Cowboys.
What?
Yeah. Well, it would just fit the Cowboys so perfectly. If all of this hype because they finally won the division and the Eagles flopped at the end, that they just lose their first playoff game to the Packers.
Oh,
It'd be
gosh.
Maybe not logical, but very thematic, if you will, for the Cowboys. So I have the Packers winning 20-16, not 19-15, 20-16.
Just add one.
Yes.
Just add
Anyways.
one. All right. What's next?
So Rams versus Lions. Very interesting matchup. Perhaps the kind of the most interesting matchup of the entire wild card round, storyline wise. And actually both of these teams I think are pretty even in general. But I do have the Lions beating the Rams. I think they're just going to be so motivated. Head coach Campbell's been just waiting for this moment for so long. And that team's just fired up. So I have them beating the Rams 21-17. So
excellent. All right.
Okay.
Eagles Bucks. Let's hear it.
Eagles Bucks. Yeah. Ever since Nick Sirianni yelled and screamed at Chiefs fans, his season has gone downhill. And I think it will continue to go downhill because the Eagles actually have the 32nd ranked defense in the entire league during this losing streak. And their defense is awful. And Baker Mayfield, he's a spry buck, if you will. And I think he'll beat the Eagles 22-18.
Well, then this would not be what most people would have as the final four in the NFC, but you got a San Francisco versus Jordan Love and the Packers. What happens there?
Yeah, so the Packers had a lucky break because the Cowboys did Cowboys things, but the 49ers are going to do 49ers things and beat the Packers. So I have the 49ers beating the Packers 23-19. I don't think it's going to be a blowout because I don't think you'll see a lot of blowouts in the playoffs this year, but I think it'll be actually a pretty dominant game regardless of what the score is. I could see the 49ers being up by double digits for most of this game until trash time. So anyways, 23-19 49ers over the Packers.
Okay. And the matchup everybody was expecting, the Bucks and Lions.
Yes, Bucks versus Lions. Lions get to host a second playoff game at home. They haven't had one in forever, and yet they get to host a second one. And I have them beating the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers is not a very good team. They're just better than the Eagles. And they played in the NFC South. You don't even have to be a good team. So they did their job. And I have the Lions beating the Buccaneers 24-20.
Wow. I love it. This is definitely a different route. I would call this the pacifist route for the Lions if I ever saw one. But so same result as LB. You got Lions, San Francisco. I love it. All right, let me write.
All paths lead to 49ers and the Lions.
Yeah, now I've got to see if mine ends up that way. I don't even know where I'm going on most of this. What? Let's see how Guy makes this different to get the Lions into the conference championship.
Yeah, you got this.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to keep this very simple. The Green Bay Packers shouldn't be in the playoffs, so the Cowboys are winning that game. I don't know how it worked out to where
I don't disagree.
I don't know
by the way.
I don't know how.
I just think Cowboys do Cowboys things.
No, I hear you, but the Cowboys will break the curse because Aaron Rodgers is not on the field to break their hearts. So the Cowboys win their first game there. However, I'm going to skip the LA game for now and start with the Eagles and Bucks next. I think the Eagles have been smurfing a little bit.
Smurfing around.
Yeah, I think they knew they made the playoffs. I think they are the NFC defending champions. And I'm sure they feel like they are the people's choice when it comes to who actually won the Super Bowl last year, which I'm sure Eagles fans will say, well, the refs won the Super Bowl last year. As much
Another reason why the Chiefs should go to everyone should be predicting the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl. We've got the refs, guys.
That's right. But I just think this, like both of you have said, even though I think this Bucs team should have been in the playoffs regardless of it being a division winner, I think it's only because of Baker Mayfield. This team is not much without him, I don't think. I think even quarterbacks better than Baker Mayfield will not have had the season he did, just because I think he matches the vibe there so well and is kind of taking the reins and done an immensely better job than Cam Newton did replacing Tom Brady. So with that, even though I love Baker Mayfield, I just think this Eagles team is too talented. I don't care that their defense is not played well. You don't have to play particularly well to stop this Bucs offense. So I have them winning that game. So there's a difference right there, just to start. But this LA Lions game, it's so tough to me because these teams are similar but different, right? I mean, it's these teams that are built around their offenses with sneaky defenses, forward thinking, aggressive play calling. I think the winner of this game is going to be the team whose defense steps up on a fourth down. And I think that fourth down will happen in the last 3 minutes of the game. And do I trust a McVay team or a Dan Campbell team to get it done? I gotta pick the Dan Campbell team, man.
There we go.
I don't see. I love Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, and I think this Rams. I wouldn't at all be surprised if the Rams win this game. I really don't. And there's a part of me that thinks the Rams will win this game, but I am just too much a believer in this Dan Campbell guy. Maybe I'm a captive of the moment. Maybe he's captured my heart, just as Matt Nagy has captured Hound's. But I just can't imagine them not getting that win if it's a close game. Now, if the Rams blow them out, that's another thing. But I think if it's a close game, the Lions win. 49ers Eagles. This is a matchup that I think could get really ugly really quickly. Although I do expect it to be a good game. I don't know. Not that I like Brock Purdy or anything. It's over Jalen Hurts as a player. I just trust the coaching staff for the San Francisco too much. Now, this was a matchup that's already happened in the regular season, and the Cowboys won because Dan Campbell was overly aggressive. What I think, believe it or not, is Dallas will learn from its mistakes in that game.
Ooh.
And I think Dallas wins.
No!
And beats the Lions. I think
you can't change destiny. You can't do that.
I just think this might be the run that the Dallas Cowboys exercise all their demons, and they have to beat Green Bay, they have to beat the Lions, and then they would have to beat San Francisco. I don't know how they do it, but I'm picking Dallas. At the very least, for content, I'm picking Dallas over the Lions. Trust me, I love the Lions, and I would absolutely love it at the Lions. I would love a Lions-Browns Super Bowl. Let me put it out there.
Yeah.
A Lions-Browns Super Bowl would be absolutely fabulous. But I have Dallas beating the Lions just because I think that it's number one, it's in Dallas. And they play much better when they're at home. So I think it's, as long as Dallas is at home, it's hard to pick against them. And with that will conclude our predictions for this week. This one went much quicker than the AFC one. So we'll have to see how this works out. I've got it all written down. And if I don't, I will have it written down shortly. And just remember, ladies and gentlemen, and we can make this a quick little meme of the week.
Meme! Approved!
Joe Flacco, according to your politicians and policymakers, is an elite quarterback.
I think Joe Flacco is actually a very elite quarterback. He won a Super Bowl. He did it really to a certain extent with that great arm of his. I would say absolutely he is an elite quarterback.